Congrats on getting beyond $1 million. What got you here won't always get you there. This is a podcast for entrepreneurs who want to reach beyond their 7-figure business and scale to 8, 9, and even 10 figures. I'm Brad Weimert, and as the founder of EasyPay Direct, I have had the privilege to work with more than 30,000 businesses, allowing me to see the data behind what some of the most successful companies on the planet are doing differently. Join me each week as I dig in with experts in sales, marketing, operations, technology, and wealth building. And you'll learn some of the specific tools, tactics, and strategies that are working today in those multi-million, 8, 9, and 10-figure businesses. Life can get exciting beyond $1 million. Ryan Pineda, I appreciate you welcoming me into your studio today.
Yeah.
It's brand new and awesome, and the first time that I've done a Beyond $1 Million episode outside of my own.
Wow. That's good to know. I'm honored.
Yes. Well, we had a little confusion because when we came in here, you were going to interview me for your show.
Right.
And now I don't know what the fuck we're doing. So we're going to talk, and hopefully I'm going to find out some more about you and how you built a number of companies. But if we can, I want to start with kind of the backdrop. So I know that you started as an agent and you have your story kind of out there, but what was the initial transition? Can you give me the bullets on that?
Yeah. I mean, the quick story is I started out as a professional baseball player. That was all I ever wanted to do. You know, I got drafted in 2010 by the Oakland A's, but many don't know in the minor leagues, you only make very little money. I was making $1,200 a month while I was playing. So I needed a job in the off season. And so I ended up getting into real estate, and I became a realtor that year at 21 years old. And during that time, I realized I hated being a realtor, mainly because I didn't like showing houses. I didn't like dealing with like fickle clients who wanted me to run them around everywhere. And I also didn't like that the commissions were tiny in that time, because in 2010, prices were at all-time lows. And so even if I worked really hard to sell a house here in Vegas, I might have made $3,000. It was very little. So eventually I stopped doing that after a couple of years, and I start just getting into side hustles. I start doing this thing that's now famous called couch flipping. And, I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but I ended up building that as my first real business.
I don't know what that is. Can you explain?
Yeah. So that couch you're sitting on right now, I would go buy them from other people at super cheap prices off Craigslist. And I would then just clean them up, relist them, go offer free delivery, and flip them for a quick profit.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So I was making about $8,000 a month doing that net.
Damn.
Yeah. It was a lot.
Flipping couches?
Just flipping couches, appliances, random things off Craigslist. But I realized couches were like the best thing to flip. So I did that. This was back in 2014-ish. And it was great. I mean, it was the first time I ever made money in my entire life, really. And eventually, after doing that for about a year, I was like, man, this is not really like what I want to do the rest of my life. So what am I going to do? And, I was praying one day, and I just see this TV commercial about flipping houses. And it's like, you could flip houses with no money. You could do all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, I've already been in real estate. You can't do that. You got to get a 30-year loan. You got to put 20% down, 3.5% down max, with an FHA loan.
All right, hold on. What infomercial was it? Do you remember?
It was Scott Yancey, actually.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
had to ask.
Yeah, for him out here. He's Vegas, flipping Vegas guy.
Got it.
Yeah, I saw his commercial, and I ended up actually just Googling, because I was like, man, you know what? Even though I think this is a scam, let me look into it. So I Google it. Hey, can you flip houses with no money? And then I find this website called Bigger Pockets. And Bigger Pockets starts talking about, yeah, you can. It's called wholesaling. You can raise private money. You can get hard money loans. And I was like, whoa, they don't ever teach you this in real estate school. And so I start looking at this new way of real estate, and I'm like, wow, this is good, because I've always been good at finding deals. I just don't have money. And so, in 2015, I ended up maxing out all my credit cards. I had $10,000 saved up from couch flipping, and, I max out all my credit cards, get $50,000, and I go take all my money and put them as down payments on 2 different properties.
Damn.
And then, thankfully, it worked out after a lot of, stress and doubt and whatever, we'll find out. But I ended up making $40,000 on those 2 properties.
Flipping them?
Yep. So that was the start.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. What happened to baseball?
In 2013, I got released by the Oakland A's. So I played 3 years with them, got released, and I was just trying to figure out what I was going to do. This was also the time I started couch flipping, and I got married that year. Like, a lot was going on in my life. Like, my dream is over. I don't know what to do. I'm getting married. My wife's in college. She's not making money. What do we do? And it led me down what I was talking about, flipping couches and side hustles. But as far as baseball goes, I actually ended up playing 5 more years after that.
Oh, really?
I played independent baseball. I lived in places like North Dakota, New Jersey, Texas, Canada. I lived everywhere. And I played 5 more years, mainly because I just loved the game. And people kept willing to sign me and pay me to go play and have fun. And there was nothing like it. And I always knew, too, that I would always have the opportunity to do business whenever I wanted. Like, business wasn't going anywhere. Real estate's not going anywhere. But my baseball career, the moment I stopped playing, was going to be over.
Yeah.
So I played as long as I could. And I retired in 2017. And I mean, during that time, I was flipping houses from 2015 to 2017 while playing baseball. And in 2017, it finally hit the point where I could not do both any longer. I was at 2017, I flipped 50 homes.
Oh, damn.
So if you can imagine doing that while trying to go play every night, it was pretty hard.
Baseball is one of the funny sports because of the the sheer number of games you play.
Yeah.
Like almost all other professional sports, it's super limited. In baseball, you're playing like every other day.
No, not even every other day, every day.
For the season.
Yeah, at the season.
Yeah.
Our schedules in the minor leagues was like 5 months, 140 games. So, I mean, you're talking 10 off days in an entire season.
Wild.
It's crazy. I mean, it's like literally 1 to 2 off days a month.
And you did 50 flips in that year. So 1 a week, roughly. What did the team look like at that point? Or were you doing it solo?
I had one person helping me.
Oh, God. What were they doing? Everything?
Yeah. I mean, when I was gone playing baseball, they were checking on properties, paying contractors, everything.
Wow. So like sort of chief of staff / assistant / operations
Everybody's
person.
a utility player.
Yeah.
When you're growing something, you got a ton of different hats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. You said something that was interesting, which was, I don't remember the language, but basically you were bitching about people buying houses and being emotional in their decisions and not wanting to wheel them around to look at things.
Right.
Do you feel like that, and I can relate to that on many levels, but usually the way that I think about it is just, I want to be outcome focused. Mm-hmm. And when people are buying houses, it's the antithesis of that. They're kind of waiting for something to strike them that they feel is the right house for them. Right. And in business, I want the opposite of that. Right. I want tactical, structured. Hey, I'm doing this action to get this outcome. Mm-hmm. Inside of your companies now, do you see any parallel between that and employees? How do you think about staff and how they operate in the company? And do you like having a lot of staff or not? Because I know you've got a fair amount at this point.
Yeah. So, I mean, between all my companies, I like to think we have around 100 plus employees at this point. And, probably half of them, maybe more than half, are remote at this point, and the other half are here in Vegas and, working locally. But I mean, I like having staff, man. It's nice knowing that we're able to, improve people's lives, give them jobs. And I know that every single person in my companies has like a purpose. They're producing value for not only the company, but all of our customers and clients and everything else. So for me, I'm trying to grow. I'm not trying to get lean and downside. Like, I'm trying to take over the world.
Are you trying to grow through people or tech or both? Because I kind of think about automation versus people. And do you lean in one direction or the other?
Yeah, I think both. I mean, really, if I can improve our efficiencies through tech, and there's a lot of ways we do that, right? Like, I think the tech of social media is so powerful. The fact that I can make videos that get seen by millions of people. It's crazy to think that happens for free just by posting, right? So it's like, man, if I can hire a few good video people, that gives us such great scale that nothing else can do. It destroys however many people could cold call, some people. So we definitely lean towards the ones that have scale. And I've also learned that the businesses that can scale way better is the ones I've started to focus on. Like a lot of what I'm doing now is kind of doing more education. And because I've realized, man, education is so much easier to scale. It has automations and different things that make it better. And so, I'm building new products and things around education for stuff that we've done well personally. But yeah, I mean, as far as people go, I've kind of, I don't want to say change my stance, but, it used to be, hey, I want to just have everyone here in Vegas. And then obviously COVID hit and, things became remote. And then it opened up the door to get talent all over the world by being more remote. And yeah, I think for me, I don't hire people just to hire people. It's like, man, okay, do we have a need for a person right now? Okay, cool. Let's hire them.
Yeah, I hear you. So, well, this is actually a good point to stop and say, what are the companies? So give me an idea of, you went from 50 flips a year, which is a lot of flips in a year, with one person next to you.
Yeah.
And that was 2017, 18?
2017 was that year. 2018 was first year I got an office, started hiring people and all that stuff.
And fast forward to end of 2022 right now.
Yeah.
And where are you now?
Man, I've got more companies than I can count. But yeah, I mean, we still flip a ton of houses. We'll still, do over 100 deals a year, flip wholesale. We have a fund where we buy big apartments. We have a CPA firm with, hundreds of clients. Got an e-commerce company managing Amazon stores. Got an NFT project where we, just launched and it's gone crazy. We've got, man, I'm just naming off the top of my head, my real estate education company. We've got a realtor education company. We've got a women's mastermind. We have, I think that's 8 right there. And then, yeah, I got another one in the works that I'm launching. And then obviously my social media business of my personal brand and everything that goes into running that. So call it 9 to 10.
And what's the distribution of your time and what are your roles in those companies?
I think it fluctuates. I founded every company from scratch. So I didn't acquire businesses or, go that route. And I know a lot of people do that. And maybe that's what I'll do later on in my life. But I really enjoy starting companies from the ground up. I enjoy coming up with the brand, the story, the product, building the community from scratch. And it's worked out well for us. And I always think about products that could be cross-sold across companies, right? So, if this person's in here, they definitely need this. If this person is, take any real estate investor in our coaching program, they all need tax. How do they come to my tax company? Most of them are buying my NFTs because it's related to crypto and real estate. So I always think about cross collaboration. Like my next company I'm starting is going to be focused on education for social media because we've done that extremely well. And we've done it not only with getting views, but also monetizing those views. And people ask me all the time how to do it. And I just haven't done it like the program yet because I've been busy launching this other stuff. So I always think, what would my current customers and stuff want? And so my lifetime value of a customer is not necessarily tied to just one company. It's in the whole ecosystem. So those are some things I think about. But as far as like how my time is spent, I would say I spend probably, let's call it a quarter of my time filming, maybe a little more. I spend another quarter talking to the various leaders of all the companies each week. I spend another quarter working on a brand new project or product or company that does not currently exist. And then I spend probably a quarter working on whatever fire happens to be going on.
Sure.
Yeah. Because there's always something.
Yeah, no doubt. Are you the sort of sitting CEO in all the companies?
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
How do you structure the sort of leadership team? Do you have a general manager for each company or an operations person or?
Yep. So each company has an integrator. So they all have a COO. Actually, I should say the women's mastermind, I am not the CEO of, obviously. That's the first one I started where I'm like, hey, obviously I don't want to be the boss, nor am I qualified to be the boss.
Sure.
But this is a need that I know people who follow me have. And, so I partnered with, my partner, Heather, who's the CEO, and she's running it and doing everything. And I'm using my resources to, give any kind of guidance to that I have to it. Obviously everything we know about running education companies, utilizing that, the traffic from all my other companies and social media. It's like if we have women who are in our coaching programs, they should be in this too. If we have spouses of the people in our coaching programs, they should be in this too. So, I think every company has somebody running the day-to-day that is not me. I don't run any of these day-to-day, at least on a permanent basis. Now, there are times where, like I said, there's big fires. And so I got to go in on a day-to-day basis and fix things until, it's back good.
Sure. I'm very familiar with that portion of it.
Yeah,
for sure. One of the things that I have many friends that struggle with this idea of, with the general shiny object problem, right? I have an idea. I want to grow a new company. I want to go this direction. What do I do? Should I do it? Let's do it. It tends to be a distraction from the core business for a lot of people. What was the second company you started? And how do you look at that? Like, do you think you'd be bigger with the core company if you just went head down and focused on that versus having all these other companies? Or what's your mindset with that?
Yeah, this is a really good question. Many people have asked me. So starting off, number one, I would not start multiple things all at once. Okay. I think that would be foolish. Most people don't have the skills to do it, and it will inevitably fail, right? You need to focus on one thing and dominate that. And so for me, even though I own all these companies now, it really was one thing. I focused on flipping houses, and that was it. And I got really good at flipping houses, and that made me 98% of my money, And during that time, I knew that people would want to join a brokerage. And so the first thing I did was start a brokerage in conjunction with my house flipping business. And, truth be told, the brokerage didn't really make me much money. It was more so like, well, we need a place to list all our properties. We need, people want to join. Why not? There's not like, it's not going to take any time out of my day to go do it. And so I did. And, we grew the brokerage to over 200 agents and very little no marketing. It's just literally word of mouth and everything else. So I was fine with the brokerage because it didn't take time, but it still represented 1% of my income. Running a brokerage is not a moneymaker. And in fact, we started that 4 years ago, and this year we actually shut it down, even with 200 agents, very profitable, because it just was not worth my time anymore. And there were better ways to do brokerage than what there was 4 or 5 years ago. We ended up transitioning them all to Real, which is like an EXP, where, you can basically have your own team underneath you, downline style, and, allows you to get people nationwide. I was like, that's a way smarter method today. Why be local, have all the risk of owning a brokerage when you could just go recruit nationwide? So that's what we did. And we ended up transitioning that company into an education company, like I said. So I started a company called Wealthy Agent, where we teach realtors how to, obviously be better realtors, but also the things that your brokerage doesn't teach you: how to invest, how to do taxes, how to do social media, like all these geared towards being a better realtor. So that was the first company I started after house flipping. And it wasn't even like I was super focused on it. It was just like, this is there. It's easy. It coincides with what I already do. We need it regardless. So whatever. But the first, I would say, big company that I started that I put focus on was Future Flipper, my education company. So, as I got more successful at flipping houses, the inevitable question became, how do I do it? Everybody was asking me, how do you guys do it? How do you do it? And I said, fine. So I wrote a book, not out of like me wanting to really monetize, of just like, I'm tired of answering this question over and over again. Like, here's the book. And they're like, we want a course. So I film a course. Then they're like, we want an event. So I throw an event. And even for the first 2 years of Future Flipper, I didn't take it serious. I was just like, whatever, you want the course, here it is. But I wasn't marketing. I wasn't publicly advertising. I didn't want to be a guru. But in 2020, I started taking it seriously, and, we've grown it. And, that one should be, one of the biggest money makers. I mean, that's going to be hopefully by the end of this year, an 8-figure business this year. So that was like the first one I put focus on. But truth be told, the reason I keep starting businesses is because two things. One, I've gotten good at it, so I know how to like do it really fast. I could spin up a business in a week. Seriously. Like I could get the logos, the websites, the landing pages, the VSLs. I could set it all up super fast. If you give me idea, I could execute it in a week. And, a lot of the stuff is already integrated with our current customers. So it's like, we know we have built-in sales right now. So instead of like it being maybe a core company thinking about a core product for that company, I'm like, well, I already know they need this too, and I have it. So let me start it for them. So that's kind of one reason, because we can do it very seamlessly. But the second reason is I've basically been ascending to better opportunities. So, with house flipping's great. It's made me millions of dollars and will continue to do that. But, it is what it is. Like there's a cap to what you can do house flipping. It's got a lot of risk. It's a ton of labor, needed contractors. You got to raise a bunch of money. It's a hard business to scale. It's great for anyone who's, hey, you want to go quit your 9-to-5 and go flip 20 houses a year. You'll make way more. It's better. It's great. But the moment you get to 100, you're like, okay, like I'm making good money now, but I'm taking on a lot of risk. What's even after this? Am I going to go flip 500? Like, what do I do? Right. And so you start looking at better opportunity vehicles and you realize, okay, well, because of the success, education is something that's way higher margin, less risk, helps more people. It's more fulfilling, and it's easier to sell, I guess, nationwide. I can't sell house flipping locally nationwide. So education became like the next logical opportunity vehicle. Then it became, well, okay, all these people follow me with social media. What's the next thing? Well, what about a fund? All these people want to invest with me. We can go buy big apartment buildings and develop this enormous portfolio. Okay, that's actually a really good use of our skills now. Let's graduate from house flipping to syndication and do the big boy deals, right? So that was kind of what we did. And the next thing for me became, all right, I truly believe that the world's going to change with crypto and real estate. I 1000% believe that. And if I could be on the forefront of that and the cutting edge, that's where the billions can be made. And that's kind of what my focus is with my NFT project Tykes and the businesses that, will inevitably be built utilizing that technology. And so I think I'm just ascending to the next best opportunity vehicle.
Interesting. So initially, the way that you were framing it, it sounded like each new company was an extension of the previous. And so it felt more like a new product than a new business.
Right.
Until you got to the fund and the NFT. Because the fund fundamentally is a different sort of, I guess you were involved, right? But it's a different sort of operation than the previous businesses. And so is the NFT project, right? You need people with different skill sets to do, certainly in the NFT one. Yeah. And the fund, you've got thinkers involved in the fund in some capacity.
I would still say they're all different. I mean, like running the CPA firm, we've got hundreds of clients. Like that's totally different. We've got to hire all these accountants on staff. It's a totally different business, but it's a business that everyone needs who's already in my ecosystem. So it's like, I already have the guy, my CPA quit his job to partner with me and start this company. And so, I spend very little time there and it just integrates. We don't have to spend time on marketing. Like people are going. Right.
Okay. So you use the word partner. Do you have partners in all of the 10 companies? Do you own them independently? How did you structure that?
They're all different.
Okay.
Some I'm 50-50 partners. Some people have small ownership. Some I own 100%.
Why did you do it that way? I mean, obviously it's going to vary from one relationship to the next, but I guess another way to ask that is, would you have preferred to own 100% of all of them?
Not necessarily. I think it just depends on how the opportunity was brought to me and, my level of involvement. So even the ones that I own 100% on, my COOs are on net profit split. So it's pretty much as if they were partners because I want them to treat it like their own and push for profits. So, there's still no scenario where it's like, there's always some kind of partnership aspect to it in one way. But I would say it all just depends on how it started. It's like I started flipping houses by myself. I didn't need a partner. I started my education company by myself, and eventually my COO gained into partnership because he ran it so well for these last couple of years. The CPA firm, legally you must have a CPA as a partner who's the majority partner actually. So
I didn't know that.
For that one, I think we're like 51-49 because he has to be it. With other things, it's just they all depend, right? The women's mastermind, we're 50-50 partners on that. My NFT, I own it all, right? So it depends on the situation of what it is we're building and how it was brought to me.
Yeah. Well, I like the answer of it doesn't really matter because I want the incentive to be there for the person that's operating the business regardless. Right. So if it's the operator, they're going to have incentive as if they were an owner anyway.
100%.
Does that trickle down to the rest of the staff and companies? Do you have profit sharing pools? Does it vary? How do you think about that?
Yeah. So, every role has some type of bonus commission structure, regardless of what you do. So, with sales, it's very simple. Like, dude, most sales guys are pure commission, eat what you kill, which is how you should like it if you're a sales guy, unlimited upside. But, even when you talk about an admin or something like that, we give bonus structures based on how well the overall company does. So, to that point, I always want my employees incentivized to do their very best individually and to also win when the company wins. But one thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately is, as you start getting bigger, this whole corporate tie-in and the stock options and different things like that. I essentially did a form of that with my NFT where I said, hey guys, as an employee, I'm going to give you one of my NFTs for free, and so they all got a free one. And that NFT right now is valued at $4,000, and who knows what it'll be valued at in the future, whatever. But they all had the option. You could sell it. You could keep it. I don't care. It's up to you. And so, that was a nice perk for them.
Totally.
But, as we grow, one thing I realized, and I learned this from Grant Cardone at his office a few weeks ago, was basically most of these big companies are just portfolios of, lots of companies. Berkshire Hathaway's that way. Blackstone's that way. Cardone is doing the same thing with all his 10X companies and the companies they're acquiring. And to me, I didn't realize I was unknowingly building that under one umbrella. We call it the Pineda company. And, this parent company owns all these various companies and will continue to add companies into the portfolio. And it just made me realize, like, yeah, I think that's definitely the play of what you do when you get really big. You see it all the time because, if the more value you bring in the parent company, it increases the multiple and everything on everything underneath it. And if you were to acquire or go public or be acquired or go public, somebody looking at that's going to really like it, having a diversified set of different companies.
Yeah, that's interesting. How far do you think relative to that? This is like a divergent path with entrepreneurs. Some people seem to have this grand vision for 20 years from now or the retirement goal. And some people are like, dude, I don't fucking know. Like, I'm trying to figure it out and I'm adjusting every month, every year.
Yeah, I literally am on that side. I live day to day.
Yeah.
That's why I said, even with this, I unknowingly built what other people strive to build at a high level. And I know that it'll continue to keep building that way because that's just how I'm wired. And it just, to me, I was like, yeah, this makes sense. And I was like, yeah, people have been doing that. The most successful people do that. And, even when you look at a Facebook, it's like they just acquire all these other companies, the Instagrams and everything else, Oculus, so that it makes Facebook overall more valuable and more powerful. And so, yeah, to me, dude, I don't know what I'm going to do next month. Like,
yeah,
I honestly don't plan things. You know, you coming on the show, I'm like, yeah, just whatever, come and we'll figure it out the week that you're ready. People who try to plan things with me like 2 months in advance, I'm like, I'm not going to plan it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's super interesting to me to interact with different entrepreneurs that operate different ways, right? Because there's certainly not a right or wrong way. I fundamentally don't think that right or wrong is a very good concept anyway, right? But it's definitely true that very structured people and very malleable people could be very, very successful. So scheduling with those that don't want to schedule is a challenge at times.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to schedule people.
Yeah.
I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Well, let me ask you this then. To that end, and this is a selfish question, but how do you handle the entrepreneurs that you're trying to get on the show or do business with that are super structured, that want to be pinned into a calendar and want to schedule something 3, 4, 6 weeks out, or they have to?
I mean, 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out, it's not like that's cool, but 3 months out, I don't do that. And honestly, most people on the show, and this is actually bad, but for all my businesses, really, I don't do any kind of outbound, really. Everything is very much inbound. And so most people you see on the show, it's because they want to be on the show. And so they'll adjust their lives to come on the show. Same thing is true for all of our marketing. Like people come in organically from all the content. They're like, we want to buy your stuff. So it's very different than maybe the old school way where it was like, hey, direct response. These people have no idea who we are. We got to really sell them on who we are and why they should come and all that stuff. You know, like I've had almost every single big entrepreneur influencer on the show already without pursuing them. And you know, at the end of the day, there's a few that I still need to get. And, you know, I'm sure, like, to me, I'm just like, it'll happen, whatever. But if I really wanted to do it, I could be like, all right, you know, let me go get Gary V. Like I guarantee I could go get Gary V this month if I really put my mind to it. And I was like, I want to interview Gary V. But I'm like, I don't care. Like, he'll come on eventually.
Yeah. Got it. So if you did run into him, have a conversation, and it's September 15th right now, and he was like, listen, next slot I have is January 7th at 12:43.
I mean, I guess I would book it, but then, you know.
Who knows between now and then? Yeah,
I'm like, you know, I would obviously do my best to honor it, and wherever I'm there, you know. If I might not be in Vegas, I might not. Like, we'll figure out what to do at that point.
Sure.
In some crazy circumstance, sure, but very few people are like worth doing that.
Yeah.
For me anyway, I just don't care.
Yeah. Well, I think also, I mean, that's sort of the point for me of talking to people that are well down their path is hearing how their perspective on those things shifts. Because when you started, I would imagine that you didn't have that perspective. Maybe you did. I don't know. Maybe you were an arrogant baseball player, a professional baseball player, and you're like, fuck all the other people. I'm going to do what I want to do.
I actually think I've kind of been like that. And I don't think that I think arrogance for sure, confidence, cockiness, whatever you want to call it. But I also do think that there's a level of, I just don't care. Like, I'm not starstruck by somebody. I'm not like, dude, this is the best. Like, I can't believe I get to interview this guy. I'm like, dude, let's roll. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny because, you know, I've interviewed a lot of people, and like, you know, I had Grant Cardone on, and Grant is somebody, a lot of people are telling me like, dude, that was the most tame I've ever seen Grant in an interview. Like, he was very respectful and like all these things. Like, what do you think you did differently than other people when he's always combative and like, I'm like, I don't know, maybe because he just knows I just am not like starstruck. I'm just asking him questions. You know, the same thing kind of happened with Alex Hormozy. You know, he's actually speaking at my event in 2 weeks. And
I love Alex.
Alex, a great guy. And just like, you know, he's speaking at the event for free. He's just really helping me out, and nice guy because we developed friendship. But he did a video on his YouTube right after my podcast and basically said, you know, hey, like, I feel like I had a lot of pride on Ryan's podcast. I didn't show up in the best way that I could have, and, you know, all this stuff. And I'm like, man, why do people, I guess, not act different, but like, I don't know if I told you that. I'm like, I disarm them with other things because maybe they're not used to maybe everybody like, man, like, dude, tell me you have all the wisdom in the world. Give me. I'm like, bro, like, let's have a conversation. What are we talking about? You know? And the same thing has happened. I've had Patrick Bet-David on the show. I've had Graham Stephan. I've had, you know, pro athletes, Derek Carr, you know, everybody's a person. It's not like, I just don't, to me, unless you're Jesus coming back here now, I'm not getting excited to like, you know, go change my life to go meet you.
I'd have some skepticism if that happened too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what has changed? If you've always had that demeanor relative to that, what do you do differently today at, you know, multi 8-figure that you didn't do when you were starting? What are the lessons of the year?
So, I mean, to your point, I think I've always had the demeanor and the confidence, even when I was broke flipping couches. Like in my mind, making $1,200 as a minor leaguer, I was like, I'm the man. Seriously. I'm like, totally. I'm playing pro baseball and I'm going to be a big leaguer.
Yep.
I don't care what anyone else thinks of me right now. And even when I was flipping couches, I was like, dude, this job is tight. Who else is making $8,000 a month doing this? Like, this is easy. I don't work 9 to 5. And then I started flipping houses. And, you know, people are like, you're going to max out your credit cards to do that? And I'm like, yeah, it's going to work. And then I started doing social media, you know, little over 2 years ago. And people were like, why would you start making YouTube videos and dancing on TikTok and all this stuff? I'm like, because it's going to be really big. That's why. And same thing is true now with NFTs and, you know, real estate and crypto. People in the real estate space are like, dude, this stuff is, I don't even understand. It's so far away. And I'm like, this is going to be big. And I'm telling you, like, I plan to make billions of dollars doing this because I know where technology goes and I know how quickly technology like advances and changes things. And so, to that end, I guess whether you call it arrogance or confidence or faith or belief, I have it no matter what circumstance I'm in. So, I would say, what have I learned from all this? It's like, number one, no matter what circumstance you're in, like, you need to have faith for whatever that next level is for you. If you don't believe you can get to that next level and you don't believe you're going to be successful, you are not going to be. And that is the definition of growth, right? Like, you would not be growing if you just stayed in the same spot. Like, you have to do something literally by the definition of growth, different that you've never achieved before. And so if you've never achieved it and you've never done it, then it requires a level of faith that, hey, if I go out on a limb here and try to do something I've never done before, and, you know, it could fail, it could work, but I have faith that it will work and then I'm on the right track. And so has it worked every time? No, I've had so many missteps, but I know that with each misstep, it gets me that much closer to the next level. And so I think, man, as an entrepreneur, the number one trait that you must have is a degree of faith. And so I wouldn't call it cockiness or anything, but like, you have to have extreme faith that everything is going to work out.
I like that. I like that lens in general. And I also like I think it's important for people to see the parallels between those words, or that they are potentially synonyms, which is faith, belief, confidence, et cetera. And I did also like the breakdown of the definition of growth being, you have to be doing something you've never done before. And in order to do that, you have to believe that you can do it. Or randomly stumble upon it, which is highly unlikely with more difficult tasks.
Or you're literally staying in the same spot, doing things that you know you've done before, which requires no faith. You know, it's like, you've already accomplished it. Like, what is there? Well, actually, I shouldn't even say that. Everything requires a level of faith. You have faith that by doing the same stuff, you'll either remain doing what you're doing, which is not true. Because the world's always changing, technology's changing, people are coming for your cookies in business and competition. So if you think that doing the same crap you've always done will work, you're actually going to decline way faster than you think.
Yeah, it's the inevitable, and that's certainly true with investing dollars right now in our current economy as well.
Yeah.
All right, I want to get tactical for a second, because I heard you speak once, and that one time that I heard you speak, you had a very structured, clean approach to how you were delivering content. And I thought it was fucking great. And it makes sense that through that lens, or when people look through that lens, they could see a path to be successful.
Right.
In the world of pushing out media that will draw people back to you.
Right.
So it's not a surprise to me that you're launching a new company around that. Can you break that down for me? How you think about putting out content, what the structure is for it and the framework?
Yeah. You're talking about the presentation I gave at War Room?
Yes.
Yeah. So for those, who obviously majority of you weren't there.
Yes.
It was about how I use Instagram Reels to get people to DM me and how it takes them through an automation, which then converts to a lead, which then converts to a sale. It's very automated and it costs $0. So it's one of the craziest things that not many people even know about or know how to do. And it's freaking crazy. It's maybe millions of dollars. So I won't talk about that strategy specifically, but I'll say that the general strategy of content is this for me. I want to be, as known as humanly possible and people should recognize me, whether they know my name or not. They're like, dude, I've seen that guy before, right? Like that's the first step is if you can become recognizable, then that's step one. Step two is, okay, now people need to start understanding what I'm all about. Right. So if people consume my content, then they know, okay, Ryan's in real estate. He's got a family. He's, got this going on. He's got good content. He's always teaching people different ways to think about money and time and business and, lifestyle and all that stuff. Right. So they start to understand who I am and what I talk about. The third thing is they now start to become bought in with, what it is I offer in my companies. Right. Like I want to give them free value and all this stuff with my content, but if you never give them a sales pitch or a call to action, what's the point? You're not even helping them. Like they're just becoming observers versus actual clients that you can help, right? Because I know I can help you way more the moment you join one of my companies versus you just passively watching my stuff. And so you got to mix in your call to actions when appropriate. And for me, the way that we do call to actions across all the platforms varies, so if I'm on a YouTube video, sometimes I might just casually mention it like, hey, you like what we're talking about? Go to futureflipper.com. Go check it out. We'll help you invest in real estate. Cool. Maybe if I'm talking about an apartment we bought, I'm like, hey, you want to invest with us on this next deal? Go to pinedacapital.com. Boom. No hard pitches in content. It's all very soft. And it's always after a ton of value. It's never like a normal ad that you would see like, hey, Pineda Capital is the best fund you could ever get into. Here's why. That's not valuable. That's an ad. So what most people fail at with content is they go ad and they don't give value. And so I always just do all value, soft pitch if they want it. That's every piece of content. And so like with the... Is that every piece? Or do you have a ratio of, hey, X amount of the time I'm going to put a CTA into it? Yeah. So it's definitely not every piece of content. So yeah, with YouTube videos, only if it's applicable to what it is I'm talking about. If there's something relevant happening, I will definitely plug it. And, on the Instagram side, as of today, we release 6 reels a day.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Damn.
So 4 of them are pure value based. There's no call to action. It's just game. And then the other 2 are, 98% value based throughout the whole video with a small call to action at the end.
That's going to a landing page of some sort?
Yeah, it's just basically saying, hey, DM me the word flip. They DM me the word flip and now goes through an automation. It sends them a landing page with a VSL. Hey, watch the VSL. Great. You like it. Apply. They get on a sales call.
Are you using a tool to do the DM management or you have?
Yeah, we use ManyChat.
Oh, do you? Okay. How do you structure what you're going to put out for content? Do you have a library of things that you're growing all the time thinking, hey, conceptually, these are the videos I'm shooting? Did somebody else do it? That's a lot of content.
Yeah, I have an entire content team. I think I've said this before. I spend around $40,000 a month on my own personal content, not my company's. And, that returns the best return I can do. And, everybody's in a different department. We got the YouTube, the TikTok, the poster, the producer, the videographer, the podcast switcher, the podcast editor, the TikTok editor. We got all these guys. So yeah, everybody knows their role. They're posting. my job, I mean, most of the stuff we create is all new original content. You know, our ads are repeated until they stop working, but the actual content itself, I mean, every week you're going to see 5 videos on YouTube that you've never seen before. You know, you're going to see new podcast interviews you've never seen before. You know, you're going to then get all the repurposed clips of those on Instagram and TikTok of me chopping up the best highlights from these conversations, you know? So we do a ton of repurposing that allows us to really amplify the content.
But how do you think about the original concepts? Like, do you have, because there are many of certainly the framework of many videos is sort of, if you're doing this, you're doing it wrong, or here are the top 3 things, or so on and yada, yada, right? So you've got kind of these initial hooks that might work.
Yep.
But then it's, what are the topics that you're trying to cover? How do you structure that?
Well, you know, it depends on the form of content. So for me, I'm everywhere with all my content. So you could watch me long form like this. It's going to be an hour long plus. You could watch me on YouTube for a 10 to 20 minute video, or you can watch me on Instagram, TikTok, which is going to be 30 seconds to a minute, right? So you can consume my stuff anywhere and everywhere depending on how deep you want to go, right? So I think they all vary in how they're thought about and structured. You know, in a podcast, starting from the longest, most of the time I'm interviewing a guest. There's no real agenda other than, hey, like, let's pull out the nuggets out of this guest and have a good conversation. With YouTube videos, that was one where there was a lot of prep and brainstorming the first couple of years I did YouTube. You know, I did a lot of videos where I spent a lot of time scripting and saying, okay, this video I'm going to talk about how to find a real estate deal. This video I'm going to talk about how to raise money. This video I'm going to talk about how to hire somebody, right? And so I hit my bullet points and, you know, make a 10-minute video in depth on that subject. And that got me really well, but you know, eventually I realized I don't really necessarily like doing this anymore. And I got better uses of my time now that my social media is bigger. I don't need to like grow it so hard. It'll organically grow now at this point. So I just started vlogging. So now, you know, my guy vlogs me like Gary Vee, and that gives us 2 videos a week. And I literally don't have to do anything. He's just vlogging me, and they're good enough to figure out, hey, that was a good piece. That was a good piece. And they make these 10-minute vlogs that are sick. So that gives me 2 videos now. Then we just started repurposing the podcast into like, you know, Joe Rogan clips style, where it's like, hey, this is the best 10 minutes from my podcast with Brad. And so we throw those clips on my channel. And then that basically leads that I only need to film 1 video a week. And so I make 1 intentional video, and it's usually something that's has no script. I might go to a house flip and I'm just walking around the house. I might go to somebody's business, go have them tell me about their business. It's very experiential. I don't do very many, all right, here's what I'm teaching you, blah, blah, blah anymore. I've stopped doing that because it's not something I enjoy doing, because it requires scripting. It's boring. I have to like just talk to a camera by myself.
Right.
You know, I did that and it got to me where I'm at. And I'm not saying it's bad. I just don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So on the YouTube side of things, I don't really have to think of topics. Like, they're just coming naturally from what happens by being me. And on the podcast, or I already said the podcast, you know, and then it takes you to the reels and the shorts and stuff. And that's the most popular content that exists today. And so that should be, in my opinion, everyone's focus, because that's how you get viral and a ton of views. Between those, I get over 1 million views a day on all my stuff, and majority is short form. Okay. So for me, majority of that content is repurposed from this, the podcast, from my YouTube videos, other stuff. So I don't have to do any work there.
Yeah.
They're just taking the best clips, and they're so good at identifying that was such a good piece of content. Let me make it into a reel. And then once a month, I will film direct response, you know, reels, where I'll sit down for about 4 or 5 hours. I'll knock out 30 of them. And, you know, they're right here on this white wall that we've got over here. And, you know, basically I have a team that feeds me like, not the ideas, but just like just the question. They'll be like, Ryan, how would somebody go make, you know, $5,000 this month if they had no money? And then I'll just be like, all right, well, and I come up with the answer. There's nothing scripted. And he'll just give me a bunch of questions that maybe they see in the comments that they're even wondering themselves and just pull it out of me. So I don't do any scripting anymore, really.
Fun. Yeah, that seems like the fun way to do it.
It's the easier way to, as long as you're talented enough to do it, though.
Right. Of course. And you actually have the experience.
Yeah.
To give valuable information.
Right. Because I know a lot of YouTubers who are millions and millions of subs and followers. They cannot do it. Like they're just not built to freestyle. They have to script and think and plan.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. I think that there are two distinct personality types. Some that can shoot from the hip. Specifically on camera or on stage.
Yep.
And others that have to do everything scripted. Mm-hmm. And I don't think one is better than the other. In fact, I tend to think that the heavily scripted, rehearsed, performed land better. That's why every movie, stand-up, everything gets scripted, and they practice the shit out of it. But it takes a hell of a lot of time to get that incremental gain.
Well, and man, it's like, is that going to be the preferred style going forward? Because you already see movies on the decline. You see long form videos on the decline. You're seeing that people don't want highly produced things now. People prefer raw interactions, the truth, and they're resonating more with rawness than they are with a perfectly scripted thing. Mm-hmm. And so that may have been the status quo, for decades, but I actually think that the rawness will outperform all of that because you can relate to it.
Interesting. I like that.
That's why podcasts are on the rise.
Yeah, for sure.
Because this is a normal conversation. This is who we are.
Right.
But me doing a 10-minute scripted YouTube video does not showcase I can try to build it in and showcase my personality, but you could see exactly who I am in an hour of talking.
I mean, so I agree with you, but I also think that the reasons for digesting content vary, right? Yeah. So if you're trying to learn something, yes, the shoot from the hip, off the cuff, freestyle from an educated, entertaining person might get you there and it might keep you captivated. Mm-hmm. But it won't be as deliberate in terms of the specific line items that you might need to learn, right?
Yeah.
The educational path. So like when you're doing courses, you have to think, all right, I would think. You have to think, all right.
Yeah, my courses are different, right?
Yeah, A to Z, this is what I'm trying to teach you.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Well, I think too about reality TV, right? Like, I mean, that came around 20 years ago and became so big because people are like, wow, this is like real, even though we know it's not real. But
now we do. I was convinced when I was a kid it was real.
Yeah, but you look at it now and you're still saying, dude, I would still rather watch. For most, you go look on Netflix, the top shows are all these real reality TV shows. They're not, they're scripted, but they're not. They're raw compared to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't trust Netflix's top 10 list, but.
Well, they can promote whoever they want.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I always wonder, you might know this is random, but are those customized for your demo at all? Do you have any idea how that works?
What, Netflix?
Yeah, Netflix does this top 10 and they're like top 10 in the US today. And I'm like, is Ryan Pineda's top 10 the same as Brad Weimert's top 10?
Oh.
You know what I mean?
I never even thought about it, but probably.
Well, I don't know. Because you would think that they would want to deliver me a different top 10 than my parents, for example.
Yeah, I think though they got a for you section too. Of hey, you might be interested in this based on your algorithm.
It's a sneaky black box, man. I don't know.
I wouldn't trust it, but yeah, I'm with you.
All right. So I want to close the loop on this. When you started, so you want to shoot from the hip in general, but when you started, you said you spent 4 or 5 years doing hardcore brainstorming to get the right concepts, to do the scripted videos, to push out there. What was that process like? Because and I asked this because there are a lot of people that are hugely successful, but have not gone into the media production area for advertising, essentially, or for client acquisition, I should say.
Yeah.
So they're getting a brand started and thinking, all right, well, what content do I know is going to work? What's the stuff I should focus on? How do I tee it up and make a structure out of it?
Right. Yeah. So my career in social media has been interesting, and I think in 2017 through 2019, I just winged it. I shot from the hip and I didn't get great results. 2020, I decided when everyone was locked down that this was a great time to take social media, seriously, treat it like a business. Let's look into what successful people do. Let's see what their styles are. Let's research. Let's do all that. And so I did. I took other people's courses. I started watching it because I don't watch content, so I don't even know what people have been doing to be successful. I've just been kind of like, this seems cool to me. And that's not necessarily the best way to do it. So I started watching other people's content in 2020, taking all their courses. And I was like, oh, there is a blueprint to this. Okay. There's a hook, like you said, there's the meat and potatoes. There's a call to action, your title, your thumbnail, all these things are very important. Your topic that you're thinking about is really important. Is your topic, like how many people would be interested in your topic, right? Like, if it came to payment processing, literally 0.001 would think that this is interesting.
Right.
But if I talk about how to go make $5,000 this month, it's very relevant to a lot of people.
Yes.
So, when you start thinking that way of topics that have mass appeal and then thinking, okay, but still I want to own a niche, right? So I think, okay, with house flipping, what would somebody who wants to flip houses know, right? So I start thinking back to early in my career. What were the things I wish I knew? And so I make topics around that. And so that, the brainstorming and the idea are the biggest aspects of content creation. And so if you've got a big idea that you think can appeal to a lot of people, then that's going to have a better chance of going viral, because even if you make the most freaking sick video, but there's like nobody that's interested in it, It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Any tools you use? Resources, database? There's like what? Answer the People. Was that what that tool is? Do you know this one?
No, I don't even know.
It's like a database for. I'm gonna have to figure out what it actually is called because we don't use it.
I mean, we used to like look at what videos were trending and other people in the industry and see. And then I realized like most people were just doing the news because that's what trends. The news trends. People are searching for it. And
for the moment, right?
Well, just every day. I mean, there's news every day.
I get it, but that's actually a really good segue because you have been talking about the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So YouTube is going to last forever, that content. The news that people are searching for in the moment, you have to keep getting new news, right? You have to keep reporting on fresh things.
Well, and it goes into the whole debate of evergreen versus current, right? So like evergreen is great. That's the type of content I make. But the problem with evergreen is it doesn't usually go viral right away, right? The news goes viral because people are searching for it right now. And so you have to have a blend of, hey, what topics can get people to see who I am today who have never heard of me? And then they start watching my evergreen stuff after that. Like you've got to have a top of end funnel, which could essentially be the news that then shows them the valuable stuff But I still don't even really do the news because I just don't watch the news and I don't care. And so it's not what I would say is the best approach, but it's worked for me thus far. And I think even anytime I've done the news, because I've built my audience this way, they're still like, yeah, we don't care. Just like teach us valuable stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, man. I love it. So today, September 15th, 2022, you've got 9-10 companies, 100 employees. What is, and you gave the breakdown of kind of where you spend your time.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to be doing with your time? What's your favorite thing to be doing inside your current role?
I would say my favorite thing is I like podcasts. I like interviewing people and doing that. I also enjoy creating new products. I really enjoy that aspect of it. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy our events. I mean, I don't do things I don't like to do. I just stop doing them. Even if they've made me money and are successful. People want me to do webinars and things all the time. You know how many webinars I've run this year? Like one. I'm like, I don't want to do it.
Beautiful.
And I know they can make me a lot of money. I just don't do it. Yeah. I know talking about the news could make me a lot of money, but I don't do it.
Yeah. Well, that's a luxury you have once you achieve a certain level, right?
100%.
Cool, man. Where can people find you if they want to find out more?
Easiest way is just ryanpineda.com. You can see all my businesses, my socials, everything.
Love it. Appreciate the time, man. Good to see you.
Appreciate you, bro.
If you learned one thing on this episode, share it with another entrepreneur. They need to hear it. Also subscribe so that new episodes just show up on your phone. It's a lot easier that way. And if you want the really good stuff, check out our free BAM! Tactics and Strategies course. It's where we curate the best tips, tricks, and tools that our guests know, whether they've shared them on the podcast or not. Just go to beyondamill.com. You'll also find previous episodes and show notes at beyondamill.com.